when I see the media talk about Novak or when I see competitors talk about Novak, I do think there is some similarities between myself and Novak.
Pre nekoliko dana, čitajući razne vesti o sportu, naišao sam na jedan tekst koji mi je bio vrlo interesantan. Taj tekst se ticao Jasona Belmontea ili Belma, čoveka koji je u naslovu teksta je pisalo pokvario ili slomio kuglanje. Ušao sam da pročitam i video sam da je Jason Belmonte čovek koji je rasturio sve principe, sve standarde u svetu kuglanja, pogotovo profesionalnog, zato što kugla sa dve ruke. Naime, kada krene da baca tu loptu, to jest kuglu, izvinite, kada krene da baca tu kuglu, on je drži sa dve ruke i moment pre nego što je izbaci, sklanja levu ruku i drži kuglu samo sa dva prsta. To mu omogućava da kugla ima veću rotaciju. To je sada već detalj, međutim, ono što mi je palo na pamet je bilo da li bih mogao da porazgovaram sa njim, da li bih mogao da nađem način da ga intervjuišem. Poslao sam mu poruku i on je pristao. I eto, u narednih 15-20 minuta možete da vidite razgovor sa Jasonom Belmonteom, čovekom koji je vrlo verovatno najbolji kuglaš svih vremena po nekim standardima. To je naravno bila i osnova i razlog da se uporedi sa Novakom Đokovićem, kojeg smo takođe pomenuli u ovom razgovoru, a inače postoji i čovek koji je možda jednako dobar, ako ne i bolji, ali u nekoj svojoj kategoriji, takođe kuglaš, dolazi iz Srbije, zove se 𝐩𝐻𝐼𝐿 i njega smo pomenuli i možda smo na tragu jednog izazova. Zahvalnost naravno Merkurix tipu, zahvalnost Vernjanu i zahvalnost Biku koji su pomogli da ovaj razgovor prođe onako kako treba.
Novi Big Hybrid Flex savršeno brije. I da, oštrice mogu da mu se zamene.
Jason, first, many thanks for your time. I really appreciate it. As I said before, I didn't know that you are so successful, that you are so huge, and I want to congratulate you. The first thing that catch my mind was the headline in one online article, "The man who broke the bowling." Do you feel like the man who broke the bowling?
Sometimes I feel that way. I think the way that you can interpret that heading, there's a couple of different ways that you interpret it. For me, the way I like to interpret it is that bowling is a very old game. And when I came onto the scene, I kind of broke the traditional viewpoint of the game. But if you talk to my haters, they will say I just broke bowling.
You said in a couple of interviews that you felt lonely because you were and you are different, especially on the track, if I'm using the correct word, because it was difficult for your opponents to accept you as a rival. Do you feel lonely these days and now when you are traveling still, because now you have many people who are cheering for you, but I still don't have impression that you are accepted as a person and as a competitor?
Yeah, I think my journey through this has seen the acceptance kind of shift a little bit. When I was young, when I was an amateur and I was trying to create a name for myself on the professional league, I think my style, where I was from, it made it a little bit difficult to be accepted into the American bowling culture, onto the American tour, and even with American fans. As my career has developed, my successes, my trophies, my awards, that's something that no one can take away from me. Whether you accept me or not, the awards that I've been able to collect, they are mine, and they're mine forever. And so I think my maturity has shifted more from wanting to be accepted to just accepting this is the reality that everyone lives in. I exist. The way that I play is now a very common practice. I think the last report was about 25 to 30% of bowlers all around the world have adopted my technique. And so from that perspective, I'm not lonely anymore. But the more success you have, the higher up the tree you go. It can be lonely from that perspective. But again, my age and my maturity is accepting, again, this is the reality of sports. When you're at the very top, you have fans, you have haters, and your competitors usually don't like you very much because you have a lot of success. And that's something that has taken me a long time to deal with and learn. But since allowing this to become a reality and accepting that, it has helped me tremendously, not just for me personally, but even when I share this information with younger kids coming through, I can explain to them what I went through and how I handled it. And I think it's been really helpful for a lot of people.
Now, while you were saying this, it crossed my mind, maybe I'm subjective, maybe I'm not, maybe I'm biased, but do you feel that in some point you can share the similar feelings as Novak Djokovic, who is coming from my country?
First off, when you contacted me and you told me you were from Serbia, obviously Novak came to mind because I am a very big Novak fan. I'm a huge Roger Federer fan and a huge Novak Djokovic fan. And I know those two fan worlds can collide a little bit. When I see Novak, and when I see the media talk about Novak, or when I see competitors talk about Novak, I do think there is some similarities between myself and Novak. I think the one thing that I admire about Novak is he continues to be authentic. What you see from Novak is what you get. He doesn't change. He doesn't say something over here and then say something different over there. And I think he's also really respectful of the game and the past. And so maybe his haters don't like him for some position that he has on, it doesn't matter what it is, whether it's health or politics or whatever, that's completely irrelevant. What I see is Novak, the athlete, and, I admire him for his tenacity, his determination. He wants to be the greatest of all time. I think he will be the greatest of all time when he finishes. And for that, and the way that he conducts himself, I'm very much a fan.
Jason, when we speak about Novak and when we speak about people like you are on the top, you won the most majors. How does it feel when someone says to you, you are best in the world, you are best in the history, you are best ever? Can you tell me that?
Yeah, it's a very dream-like feeling, because when you're young and you have this hunger and this motivation and determination, your goal is, I want to be the best in the world. I want to own the most majors in history. That's your goal, and it's driving you. When you reach that goal, in my experience in talking with older athletes, sometimes you get to the top and then you don't know what to do. All that motivation, all that hunger, sometimes it can go away very quickly. And when I heard these people talk about their own careers like that, one of the important keys for me was I don't want to just have the record. I want to set my own records. And this way, those numbers are unattainable for a long time or till I'm ready to retire. And so that motivation is still there. And so when you say, how does it feel? In my head, I haven't reached the goals that I've set. There is a part of me that understands, okay, I have achieved these things and I have broken these records. And that's the dream-like phase. It's like, wow, I can't believe I've been able to do this. But the other half of me kind of slaps me across the face and says, relax. That's happened. Where are we going tomorrow? What is the next thing that you need to work towards? So keeping that kind of balance, I think, of allowing yourself to be proud, to look at those things that you have won and collected and titles is very, very important to me. But if it becomes the most important thing, then all the things ahead, it will be harder to find that desire and that fire to keep going if I already think I've reached the top of the mountain. So yeah, maybe someone like Novak, I can, find inspiration towards, because I know in his mind, he doesn't just want the record. He wants to go beyond the record. And then whoever comes later is going to have to climb Mount Everest to beat him. And that's kind of what I want to do as well.
You have 3 kids and a wife, and tell me 4 kids.
4 kids. Yeah. Yeah, I have 4. I have a 13-year-old girl, 11-year-old boy, a 7-year-old girl, and a 2-year-old boy.
Oh, 4 kids and a wife. So tell me one thing. When you do common things, daily things, does that keep you with your feet on the ground because you are best ever, but then you need to take the garbage out, or I don't know, keep them quiet or make them meals or things like that? Is that important for a person to stay humble?
I think it's very important. Yeah. The interesting thing about my career and my fame is it is predominantly in the United States. And so when I go to the United States, it's a lot busier. There's thousands of people when I go to these events that want to see me, and that's lovely. It's wonderful to have. But when I come back home to Australia, it's not like that. And when I'm at my home in Australia, I am first and foremost a dad and a husband. And so those 2 jobs are the most important jobs when I'm at home. And so keeping my feet grounded, it's not something that anyone forces me to do, or it's not me saying I need to do these so I stay humble and I stay grounded. This is just what I think is important in my own life, that when I'm at home with my family, I have responsibilities and I have a role to play. And that is singular, most important. The bowling side, sometimes I bring it in as a bit of a joke. Sometimes, like if there is garbage to be taken out and it's cold or it's wet outside and I don't want to go out there, I'll tell my son, hey, listen, dad's hands are very valuable. Okay, I can't be going out into the cold to take the trash out. These hands are so valuable. But usually my son looks at me and just says, yeah, you're not cool. You're not cool, Dad. But he'll do it. He'll do it for me. But he doesn't think I'm cool sometimes.
So when you are coming back home from the trips, you need a lot of presents to bring with yourself. But tell me, how are you doing it? Because as far as I know, you're taking 15 balls to the tournaments with yourself. Man, they charge you overweight all day, all night.
Yeah. Nowadays a lot of the gifts that I can give can be online stuff, so that helps. I can give my son some Nintendo Switch games online, which is also handy. But I think when it becomes to like my family and my travel, like they've been so amazing and so understanding that it doesn't become normal for me to have to bring home anything except maybe a trophy or two would be lovely. And so when I'm away and I come home, if I do bring them gifts, because sometimes I'll see something that might mean something that I know will mean something to one of my kids, or maybe it's quite practical and we don't have it in Australia. So I'll bring it back home. They're always very appreciative, but there's never an expectation. But I do spoil them when I'm in Australia. So I have a hard time saying no to a lot of things. I'm a bit of a softie.
And you bring, is it true that you bring 15 balls with you at your travels?
More. So on the pro tour, I'll travel with maybe 21, 24 different bowling balls. On the pro tour, we have it's a huge truck. And the players are allowed to put some of those bowling balls on the truck, and the truck can travel around. But there are also some of the players that will drive from tournament to tournament. They enjoy driving, or it allows them to pack more bowling balls and more things in their big trucks. And so sometimes you can give your bowling balls to your mates, and even though they are your competitors, we are still a very small group of people. And so for the most part, we really do try to help each other out. If someone needs help or someone loses something, the players really do get together to make life easier for each other when we can. So it's about 20, 21, 24 bowling balls, but yeah, very rarely do I travel on the plane with those. I'd have to win like a tournament just to cover like you said, the excess baggage fees.
Jason, I read one article that the first money tax-free you earned in some American city late at night, playing in money. Is that true that you were against some people playing one-on-one and that they were betting, and that you didn't have money to give away if you lose? Is that true?
Yeah. So that story, that's a long, long time ago. This was when I was still an amateur, and there was a little bit of news about me had traveled to the United States, but nobody really knew who I was or saw what I was capable of doing on the ball. And the event that you're talking about in America is called action bowling. And so there's no prize money, there's gambling money. So when I heard about this, and I'm only a teenager, so I don't have a lot of money as a teenager. And so I brought with me like $500. And I thought it was just one game, $500, this will be it. And I remember thinking to myself, like, oh my God, this is a lot of money, $500. Like, I hope I win. I can't afford to lose this. This is crazy. What am I doing? When I got there, I found out it wasn't for $500. It was for $5,000 a game. And like, I didn't have the money. So all the fans that came to the bowling center to watch this match, they gave me the extra money so we could actually have the match. And in the end, I became like offering shares into my bowling. So I had $500 of 5,000. So I had 10% of my own bowling, and the crowd had the rest of the 90%. And luckily for me, I actually bowled really well that night. And I made a lot of money for everybody else. I mean, for me, I still made a little bit of money, but I made a lot of money for everybody else. So, but the Americans were good back then, because when we finished, and it was very late at night, we started at 1 o'clock in the morning and we finished at like 4 o'clock in the morning. I was exhausted. But a lot of the Americans came and gave me some tips. So I was like, this is amazing. I won like I think for me personally, I came away with like maybe 3,500 or 4,000 US dollars after the tips and everything. So it was a big night for a teenager. I was very happy.
And you run back to the room to check the money.
Yeah, well, I had an American friend who said to me, "Listen, before the final game was over, he said, listen, as soon as we're done, you pack your stuff, you run to my car, and we get out of here." So the city that we were in was in a not a very nice neighborhood in New York City. It was in Queens, and the prison was like just down the road. So it was not a nice neighborhood. And so my American friend said, listen, because I didn't know where I was. I had no idea. I just was told to meet somewhere. And so I did. And then I found out, listen, you jump in this car, we get out of here as fast as we possibly can. I'm like, okay, let's do that.
Is it true that Netflix is recording a show with you and making some documentary about you?
This was true. The recording started right before COVID. And it was an independent filmmaker who had a relationship with Netflix. And so the independent filmmaker we started, I think, two events of travel. And then we had COVID. And COVID for Australia in particular lasted much longer than a lot of other countries around the world. And so by the time COVID had finished and we could get back to traveling, the project had kind of died. And so I never really found out if they were interested in coming back. I kind of just thought, well, if they are interested, they know how to reach me. They'll contact me. And so they haven't done that yet. But I do believe the PBA Tour is going to be starting a documentary series. If not this season, maybe the next season. So maybe I didn't get my Netflix series, but hopefully bowling gets one soon.
Definitely a lot of stories which are good for the movies, especially those nights with the what happened to you privately, in like you mentioned that competition or professionally. I just want to ask you at the end, in the past year, the year we are now in, and I hope that we will broadcast this interview at the very beginning of the 2024. The past year was not the best in your career, but there were also some memorable moments. And the special thing about bowling is that sometimes, please correct me if I'm wrong, that sometimes for the bowlers it's very important that if television record the perfect game, and you did in 2023, right?
Correct, yeah. And that was my third perfect game on television to record, which is a PBA record. So you're right. 2023 it wasn't a horrible year. It just was probably a little bit below my usual standard. But anytime you can win a major championship and also record another perfect game on television, it's not an awful year.
What are your aims for the next year? What do you expect from yourself for the next year, and where do you see bowling right now? Is it more popular, less popular? How do you see the game?
Yeah, I think for me personally, my goal is going to be probably to go back to more of the simple things. Instead of looking too far down the road at the end of the season and winning titles, like I think I want to narrow my focus right back down to as simple as one good execution shot. That's it. And if I can narrow my focus, as tedious and mentally draining as it is to do this every single delivery, I think the reward will come later on. I don't know what the rewards will be. I'm not really looking for specific rewards. It's if I do the small things really well, I know I'm going to win many events. I know I'm going to win many awards and championships and maybe perfect games. And so sometimes I think it's good to just kind of, keep your head down a little bit, focus on the very present and let the rest happen on their own. Where do I see bowling? Yeah. I think bowling is, it's an old game. And so we see the popularity of bowling over the decades kind of go up and down. And I think we're on a trendward going up at the moment. We're still a long way where we want to be as professional athletes. We don't have the prize money like baseball and tennis and golf and basketball, but we're starting to see more of it. We're starting to see people like myself in more and more articles and magazines and on social media from big publications. So I think that's a really positive thing to see, that bowling is becoming iconic again. It's also very relatable. Everybody has gone bowling once in their life. Like, we have all gone bowling. Well, maybe not all of us, but a lot of us have gone bowling. And so I think because of that popularity of people wanting to go bowling, they look to professional bowling in a more positive light. Again, this is a really good thing for the sport.
There is one guy in Serbia named Vilmos Zavarko. He is multiple world champion in bowling, but he is not professional. He is bowling for some clubs, in Europe, but not the same as you. So I just want to use this opportunity because he is so good to mention his name, because I feel obligated to do that, and maybe suggest one day, maybe two of you to play in some exhibition game to see who is better. That would be really nice. And the other thing, what I wanted to ask you at the end, do you recommend anyone who goes bowling to bowl with two hands?
Well, first off, I accept the challenge. I never back down from a challenge. I would love to do it in Serbia, but please don't do it in winter, okay? I've seen Serbian winters, okay? They look very, very cold, so let's not do it then. And as for, do I recommend bowling with two hands? This is how I like to describe it. One-handed, two-handed, pick one. And if you're really bad doing it that way, swap to the other way and see if it helps you.
Jason, many thanks for your time. I really appreciate. And I want to say thanks to Novak, because he helped in a bit to make this interview, and all the best in the future. Hope to stay in touch. Hope to see you again. We will try to buy some memorabilia and some souvenirs from your site, because I see that you have everything, with your logo, and things like that. And I really wish you all the best, and many thanks.
No problem at all, Alex. Thank you very much. And if Novak ever needs some bowling tips, hey, you've got a pretty good hookup now, okay?
Many thanks. All the best, and all the best in the forthcoming year.
See you. Peace, everybody. Have a great new year.
Thanks. Bio je to dakle razgovor sa Jasonom Belmonteom, verovatno najboljim kuglašem na svetu u toj svojoj profesionalnoj kategoriji. Prihvatio je izazov, ponudio se da da Novaku neki savet i eto, bilo bi lepo da ga vidimo jednom u Srbiji, ali kada ne bude zima. Ovo je bio prvi razgovor u 2024. na ovom YouTube kanalu. Srećni praznici i naravno zahvalnost Merkurix tipu, zahvalnost Vernjanu i zahvalnost Biku.
Novi Big Hybrid Flex savršeno brije. I da, oštrice mogu da mu se zamene.
Sve najbolje u 2024.